Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Chat with Derick. This week, we are going to be talking to a community builder. He was inducted to the Order of Ottawa back in 2015. He is also the owner and president of Kichesippi Beer Company. I'm joined by Paul Meek on today's show. Paul, how you doing?
I'm very good, Derick. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. So nice to see you. I mean, during these crazy times, obviously unprecedented times, it's so nice to catch up with people like yourself, as you mentioned just off camera. You and I have known each other for many years. Met on the set of Daytime, as a matter of fact,
That's right.
when I was hosting Daytime, and you were just beginning this incredible business that has grown exponentially over the years, which we're going to talk about. But Paul, this is a great opportunity for people to get to know you a little bit more, and you have a really interesting story. First of all, you were born in Jamaica. Tell me how that came to be.
Yeah, so mom's from Quebec, Quebec. Dad's from Cornwall. They met in the Glebe in
Okay.
the '60s. Actually, technically they met in the summer of 1970. So Dad thought Mom was pretty cute and wanted to get married. But he was actually heading down to Jamaica with Scotiabank on a transfer. So he wrote her a letter. He proposed in the mail because he couldn't afford a phone call, and she wrote him back in the mail and said, "Yes, I'll marry you." He said, "Okay, great, but we have to move to Jamaica right away." And so they moved down to Jamaica. I was born there when Dad was with Scotiabank. 2 years in Jamaica, off to Puerto Rico for a couple of years, and then we came to Canada. So yeah, it's one of those funny things where the very large white guy is from Jamaica, which catches people off guard. So.
And then you found yourself east of Toronto, right? You at that young age, your family came back to Canada, and I guess you moved just outside Toronto. Is that right?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Pickering Ajax area. So Pickering is just like literally borders Toronto. So Pickering and Scarborough are on the border of Toronto there, and then just moved a little bit more east to Ajax. So I was there until I finished high school, and then headed very east after that. So.
Yeah, you headed to Halifax, right? University in Halifax.
Yeah, it's right. Went down to St. Mary's in Halifax. Mom was pretty upset. She thought that there were lots of great schools in Ontario, and there absolutely was. But I was looking for a new experience and definitely to spread my wings and to check out a new part of the country I'd never really experienced. So didn't always had a lot of adversity to risk. So yeah, let's go out to the East Coast and check it out and see what's going on. And had a great experience out there. Started with an arts program, ended up finishing with a business program, which I'm sure shocks nobody. And then ended up meeting my wife out there. So got a degree, fell in love, and it was a great experience.
And also, what happened now? I remember talking to you about this many years ago, and I hope my memory serves me well here, Paul. But was it Alexander Keith's that approached you way back in the day? Were you not like entertaining fans or something like that at one point?
Yeah.
Tell me this story.
These are stories I wish you would have forgotten from years ago. But yeah, so when I went to university, I had this vision in terms of my head. Like I had you watch what university life is like on the movies and stuff like that. So wanted to go to the football game and I wanted to see the cheerleaders and where's the mascot and where's the beer garden, like the whole thing. And so the football game, there was no mascot. And I was like, well, what's going on here? This is not what I thought I signed up for. So I found out who was in charge and said, where's the mascot? They said, well, nobody wants to do it. Well, I'll do it. And so I became the husky dog, and dancing around in the big furry outfit, and taking pictures with the fans, and it was a lot of fun. But then when I did the mascot in the basketball games, it was really hot in that costume. So I said, you know what, I'm going to ditch the costume, and just sort of did like an old Harlem Globetrotters outfit, like the tearaway pants and the jacket. So I would go in the basketball court and rip off my tearaway pants and do some breakdancing and bug the refs and entertain the crowd and throw some t-shirts in the crowd and I was just having fun with it. This was just a great experience. I was getting paid like very little money, and
Right.
at that point, Pepsi said, "Hey, look, we're running some different halftime show stuff. For rewarding the fans. Can you be our Pepsi rep?" Sure, I can do that. And then Milk came along and said, well, hey, Monsieur, you're doing a good job with Pepsi. Can you represent Milk? We're trying to push chocolate milk to the active lifestyle community. So I said, okay. So Milk gave me a big red T-shirt which said "Drink Milk, Love Life," and I had to wear spandex pants, but the spandex looks like cow prints. So I'm a big guy, so you can imagine my legs looking like white and blotchy pants, giving out chocolate milk samples and throwing T-shirts to the crowd. And like this is all spiraling out of control, right? And then Alexander
Yeah.
Keith said, hey, you've got a good presence on campus. Can you represent our brand on campus? So at one point, I was the Milk rep, the Pepsi rep, and the Keith's rep. So if you were thirsty, I totally had you covered, and that's how I got started in the. Exactly. It was totally crazy. It was
It's
totally crazy.
amazing.
Yeah.
There must be video footage out there somewhere. I need to
If
see
you want,
you breakdancing on a basketball court, buddy.
well, it's funny. My dad was sitting around with some buddies one night having a drink, and he said, "Oh, my son was on TSN last night." And, oh, what was he doing? Oh, he's the mascot for the football team. Like expecting some really big varsity superstar kind of thing. But no, my son's the Husky Dog mascot. But the video footage, the really crazy part is, I thought I was doing a good job, and that was when the Raptors were just getting started out. So we actually went to the first ever exhibition game with the Raptors in Halifax, the Raptors against the 76ers. And I was like, you know
Okay.
what? I think I could. I'm a pretty good mascot. I should go for it. So I actually applied to be the Toronto Raptors mascot and did a full promotional video. So my thing was, if they wanted talent, I'm out. But if they want personality and slapstick kind of thing, I got a chance here. And I didn't even get a thank you very much. I got nothing. Like I didn't get a thanks for your video. Appreciate
Oh,
nothing. Like so it's one of those. But I'm thinking I think I gotta make it here. This is gonna be awesome. Nothing like total crickets, like tumbleweeds. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So what do you do, right? It
oh
worked out okay.
man. I'm
Yeah,
so glad my memory actually worked on this one. That was
that was
a
good. That was good.
fantastic
Yeah,
story. I
I
love
haven't
it.
talked about that in
Okay, well,
years. Yeah, yeah.
oh, it's amazing. Let's fast forward a little bit and talk about what brought you here to Ottawa.
Yeah, so after university, Kelly and I went to Toronto. Was out of the beer business for a while. Was into the financial world, doing some mortgages and banking and stuff like that. Great career for a lot of people. Just wasn't my thing. Couldn't be creative. Couldn't be out of the box. Managed to get on with Labatt Breweries. So worked with a bunch of different opportunities in Toronto. Worked for Labatt. Worked for Pepsi. Ended up working for Sleeman. And then Kelly got sick. It was like, when I needed to do something, I needed to sort of slow down our life. Toronto was a little bit too busy of a pace for us. So Kelly was sick. Alexander was just being born. So this is, late 99, early 2000 kind of thing. And I was like, we need to start looking at a better lifestyle for us, not the rat race of Toronto and living in the burbs and being on a commuter train all the time. And I was with Sleeman and said, look, I'm looking to do a transfer and there's an opportunity. And Kelly went to her, she was working for a bank at the time. And they said, yeah, we actually got some opportunities in Ottawa. So we were both able to transfer up to Ottawa in sort of like winter 2002. So Alexander was about 20 months old. And yeah, we've been in Ottawa ever since. And then left Sleeman and went into a commissioned alcohol world. So I was selling wine. I'd sell a box of wine, get some money. Sell a box of beer, get some money. So it was working for some small different import companies, and just on commission kind of stuff. And then at that point, customers were saying, "Hey, look, Paul, we like dealing with you. We enjoy your products, but we're getting more requests for local products. Um, what do
Okay.
you got?" And I was like, "Gee, I don't really have anything. Everything we have is European stuff. Let's look into, what can we? Maybe we should make this a cool little Ontario brewery we can represent in Ottawa, kind of thing." And there was nothing really we were in love with. And it's like, you know what? I've worked at Sleeman. I've worked at Labatt. I've worked at Alexander Keith's. Let's go for it. Let's give it a shot. And then that's how the whole ball got rolling. Back in 2009, we started to look into this. It was actually the same summer that Kelly was in the hospital for 2 months. So like Kelly's in the hospital for 2 months, and I'm working on a business plan at the end of the hospital bed, thinking, "Hey, we should really go
Right.
for this." And she's like, You see me sitting here in the hospital bed, right? Like, what are we doing?" And my thing was, well, yeah, like we've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. We've always wanted to do something. We've now learned how precious life is. What are we waiting for? Yeah, and that's how we got started. And so we ended up launching Kichesippi in 2010. So
Paul, take us back for a moment to Kelly's
yep.
diagnosis and describe the diagnosis and what that meant for you and your family.
Yeah, so Kelly had this really very rare disease called mitochondrial cytopathy. So you and I eat food, your food goes to what's called your ATP, which is sort of like the generating station of your body. The ATP turns the food into energy and then sends energy to your muscle group. So your skeletal, your heart, and your brain, all get fed. Well, Kelly's ATP had a genetic defect, so her muscle groups were just in a constant state of atrophy. So technically, every day, Kelly was just getting weaker and weaker and weaker due to lack of nutrients going to the muscles, because the mitochondria sort of is the whole DNA essential part of the system. So yeah, Kelly was
Okay.
diagnosed. Alexander would have been 3 months old. She had a couple biopsies, a nerve biopsy, muscle biopsy, and then in September of 2001, finally got a diagnosis. Thought it was muscular dystrophy. Turned out it wasn't. Yeah, and then so Kelly was just basically in a constant state of atrophy. So it became it needed a cane, they needed a walker, they needed a wheelchair, that needed a wheelchair with a headrest. So it was a slow decline. And yeah, so she was in the hospital for 2 months in 2009, hospital for 2 months in 2013, and then ended up passing away in 2019. So yeah, so the poor thing did make it to 48, and I always talk to Alexander. Alexander's 21 now, and I said, look, do you ever remember mommy, walking? And he's in his mind, she never walked, right? Like it was nice to have some videos
Really?
and photos, seeing these things, but he has no recollection of her ever walking around. She was always in a wheelchair in his mind, right? So yeah, so it's been pretty
Yeah,
crazy. That was always the running
yeah.
joke, right? It was one of those. Kelly's in a wheelchair, Alexander's the diabetic, and I'm the healthy one, and I'm huge. Like, we're screwed, right? If this is the best, we're a mess, right? What the heck?
We're in trouble here, people.
Oh my God, yeah.
Well,
Why does God hate us so
and
much? What did we do to tick him off, right? So
yeah, exactly. Well, and I mean, and remained obviously, the love of your life, but also, still remained your business partner, and she's the one you just continued to bounce ideas off of. So tell me about the growth of the business. How you and Kelly grew this business from the beginning.
for sure, like you can see the glass here over my photo. It's the same glass we used since day one. It is the Lido glass, and sorry, over my shoulder. And
Yeah.
Kelly wanted a glass that would work well for a large hand like mine or a small hand like hers. So it's got a small part on the bottom. It's got a big part on the top. It works for whatever size hand you're working with. So Kelly wanted to have a nice glass that would work for both men and women. And also, her thing was, she was a proud Nova Scotia girl. She said, look, when you're in Nova Scotia, Alexander Keith's is part of the experience. And she said, I want to create a product. I want to be the Keiths of Ottawa. Like it's one of those, Kelly coined the phrase. I want people to say, I'm going to Ottawa for the weekend. I'm going to want to go to the canal, go see the Parliament buildings, and have a Kichesippi beer. And that was one of those things that if we can shoot for that and aim it to be part of what you do when you're here, then we'll have done our job. So.
And that name Kichesippi, I know that people have always questioned. Well, I think you've spelt Kichesippi wrong, because they always think of the ward. So, why Kichesippi? Where did that idea come from?
We wanted something that had a local tinge to it, but we didn't want to be too obvious. We didn't Capital, Carleton, Rideau, that kind of thing. It was a little too obvious. So we said, look, what can we do that's got some historical significance to it, but also has a bit of an interesting tinge. So Kichesippi, as you said, is spelled differently, in different parts of the. So there's the Kichesippi Ward, there's the Kichesippi Lookout, even the Kichesippi Times, all spells it differently than we do. But Kichesippi, for those that don't know, it means the Great River. So Kitcha is great and Sippi is river. So it's what the Algonquin First Nations people referred to as the Great River. So before Ottawa was Ottawa, back in Ottawa became Ottawa in 1855, but before Ottawa was Ottawa, the Ottawa River was known as the Kichesippi. And when you go up into the valley towards Pembroke on Morrison Island, the Kichesippi people, the people of the Great River, coined the phrase. So when we look at it back up into the valley, where the name is a little bit more prominent, they use that spelling. But in the end, it's not an English word. It's a phonetical, Algonquin First Nations word. So it's all how you spell it. So we look at our friends, in downtown Zeeby. Zeeby literally means river. So it's another just tinge on that Sippi, Zeeby, Kitcha, great thing. So the fact that we spell it a little differently than they do, it's all honoring the great history of the river. My friend Jeff O'Reilly.
Right.
Always had one of the great phrases. It was the hard to spell but easy to drink, and I was like, what, that should have been our great slogan from the beginning, because you spell it wrong, 9 times out of 10 for sure. And it's from a marketing, branding, company perspective, it's probably not the best move to bring out a brand that is tough to spell, but I think we've been able to move past that over the last 11 years.
No, I couldn't agree more. And correct me if I'm wrong. Did you not contract out a beer at another brewery? Is that how things sort of began and creating your first? I think it was the blonde that you first created, right?
Correct. Yeah. So in the beginning, so when we wanted to start our own brewery, we looked into it, did all the financials. We were about $1 million short in terms of how to get started. Like we have this idea. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of those, because it's such an old fashioned business, right? You need a building and you need equipment and you need it's right. Very labor intensive. It's very, very overhead, very government taxed. So it's not the easiest thing to get off the ground. So Heritage Brewing, it was a great brewer that had been around for about 10 plus years. So we went to them and said, hey, can you make us a beer? We think we've got a neat idea going here. So you're absolutely correct. We launched Natural Blonde April 29th, 2010. paid Heritage to make the beer for us, and then ended up buying them out 8 months later. So they had their first grandchild. They were looking to move on and retire. So first keg of beer went out on April 29th, 2010, and we purchased the brewery from them December 15th. So if you ever want to purchase a brewery 10 days before Christmas, I do not recommend it. It's a bad idea because it was totally
Okay, good.
crazy.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right, that's good advice because we're thinking of it. I mean, during these times,
Exactly.
trying to find anything new that we can attach
Just trying to
ourselves
stay
to.
busy. Exactly.
I'd like to talk a little bit about having a family business. I imagine your son is probably part of the business. Of course, you and Kelly started the business. What's that dynamic like? I mean, because there's probably two thoughts. A lot of people think it may be difficult having family involved at all times, and other people find it a wonderful experience. So, tell me about your experience running a family business.
For sure, it's a great thing because they keep you humble, they keep it creative. It's nice to have different perspectives. I always love sitting down at the dinner table and said to Kelly and Alexander, "Oh, guys, I've got this great idea." They would both go, "Oh, what now? Oh my God, like, what's going on?" But it's really great. Like with Alexander, when we started this business, he was 11, so he was 10 years old. But now, he at 21 years old. It's great to have his perspective because it's very important to me that the Kichesippi brand is more relevant and more cool, if you will, than the 48-year-old overweight man who lives in the burbs that owns it. And having a 21-year-old son to give some perspective on things, so we can have his generation come in now and say, look, how do we get your generation and like the 21s to 30s to say, yeah, Kichesippi is a brand that I would love to support as a business. And not be just a brand that with everybody that looks like me that comes in and purchases the beer, right? So it is really nice to have that balance. And it's great. Alexander's worked here; he's working elsewhere right now, but it's nice to have him at the brewery to get his perspective. And it's really great for him to be working somewhere else at the moment in a different industry, where he can bring in his own perspective in terms of, hey, here's what we're doing, in his world. Like he's working in the cannabis world right now and really enjoying it. And there's a lot of synergies to what they're doing and what we're doing. So I sit down and say, oh, how was your day? What did you guys do? Oh, that's interesting. And how does it, the different contrast and compares to his world versus our world. It's really great to have those conversations with him.
Well, being an entrepreneur, and we'll talk about some of the other things that you've done, Harvey and Vern's, and a new project as well. But has your son tried to convince you to get into that cannabis industry from his experience yet?
He's asked us if we would get into it. I don't know nearly enough about it. I've always been a beer guy. Even when I was selling wine, I was always a beer guy trying to sell wine. So it's one of those the entrepreneur term. I'm not totally comfortable with that term because I'm not sure if I could do the same thing and be a window guy. I'm not sure if I can do the same thing and be the guy that sells coffee cup lids. I don't know if that's the case. Like we're definitely stepping out of our comfort zone a little bit with this new project, but not too far out of our comfort zone. So like it's one of those. If I'm in the end, beverages is my comfort zone, and the marijuana business, the cannabis business is thriving. If that's your world, wonderful. It's not my world. I've maybe tried it a few times. It's just not my thing, and it's one of those I don't turn my nose up at it. I also don't have I really could go for some CBD or THC tonight. It's just not my world. So it would be a big learning curve for me to jump into that world. And I also think that it's going to get really crowded really quickly. When I look at, we monitor the amount of liquor licenses that get provided to new places, and we also monitor the amount of cannabis licenses that go out, and it is unbelievable. And I think it's going to be a very crowded market very quickly. Retail and the consumer packaged goods is definitely where my comfort zone is, and there's going to be a very crowded market with the cannabis retail world. So I think we're better to stay in the world of beverages right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you about that industry. I think it's going to get incredibly crowded. We've seen it here locally. There's no doubt. Before we move on, I have to ask, Alexander, was he named after Alexander Keith?
No, we get that one a lot.
Okay.
No, for sure. It's a fair question, right? It was my first beer job. We just love the name. It was a great. It's just a great international name, right? Like the Scottish have a little hold on it. The Russians have a hold on it. It's a very old world classic name, So we just really liked just had a nice global international flair to it. But we do get that question a lot, absolutely, for sure. So we didn't call him, and his middle name is not Keith, so it's just Alexander. So yeah.
Paul, you mentioned you're a big guy, and I know that you've had personal challenges, struggling with your weight. Tell me about those challenges over the years.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things. Like we talked earlier about that I'm the healthy one in the family, and there's this old saying of God gives what you can handle kind of thing, and whether you believe in God or not, you can appreciate what the reference means. Kelly always had this joke that they must have got us mixed up with somebody because we can't handle that, and people always say to me, how do you do it? How do you run a family and run a business? All these kind of things, and my response is, I don't, because there's certain things that fall off, there's certain things that don't get done, right? Sometimes the grass doesn't get cut. Sometimes the garbage doesn't get put out, and sometimes I don't take care of myself, and that is definitely one of those situations where you talk about that analogy of you're on an airplane, right, and the oxygen masks fall down. You're supposed to put it on yourself first, and then put it on your family, afterwards. And it's not been my specialty, and not been a thing that I've done well in terms of taking care of myself. It's the take care of Kelly, take care of Alexander, take care of the business, and I have no cynicism whatsoever. That's a choice that I've made, but I have not balanced it well in terms of taking care of myself. Like it's Lindsay, who's one of our great employees here at the office. When she's been here for 6 years, and in that time I've literally lost 100, then gained 100 pounds, kind of thing. So it's definitely been an ongoing frustration for me, where I need to continue to work on finding that balance in terms of taking care of myself and taking care of the business. And because in the end, this is the sad, morbid part, if you will. If I don't take care of myself, then I really can't take care of the business, and can't take care of my family. If I'm not if I'm not around to do so, right? So that's the challenge. And I'm definitely disappointed with Kelly being gone over 2 years now. That I would have hoped that I could have found a little bit. I've definitely found more of that balance. I lost 30 pounds in 2020. So it was on the right track. 2021, I thought it was going to be, 2021 is going to be great. COVID's going to be gone, and the business will be back to normal, and all. I can put things into, with not cruise control, but a bit more normalcy, and have not been able to find a continued traction on that. So it is definitely a personal struggle for me that I don't identify. Like, I am very overweight, but it's funny. I still don't think that I am. Like, I don't identify as an overweight person. To me, it's just a temporary thing. The problem is the temporary thing is over. It's pushing 10 years now. So it's almost 20% of my life that I've been this way. So it's one of those I need to get back that way, because in my mind I'm still a 32 to a 34 parent, and I'm nowhere close to a 32 to 34 parent. It would be oh boy. So yeah, I have this running. I always try and have some fun with things, right? Because if you can't. You can't laugh, and to me, you're just going to go crazy. So whenever I have a meeting with somebody, I always joke that we're a small business, and I'm my own quality control department, right? We're that size of a business that I have to do all the quality control and all the beers. So it's a little way to break the ice, but it's definitely something I need to do a better job of, and find that balance. Otherwise, I can't. I don't think I could probably take care of the business and take care of the family going forward, for sure.
Paul, you mentioned the pandemic, so let's talk about that. I know you've been impacted, many challenges I'm sure you've gone through, but it's also led you to and inspired you, I guess, to look and innovate and find a new project. Tell me about your new project.
Yeah, so for sure. So it's there's two parts to it. So we moved locations. So we were down at in the Westboro area up until 2019. I started moving the brewery in 2019, and then Kelly passed away, and we got open late summer 2019. So part one of the project was to move to a great location where people could come in and enjoy our products. So we're in the old Volkswagen dealership in Bell's Corners, and 80 seats inside, 160 seats outside in the patio, 2 food trucks. Great place to come in and enjoy a glass of beer, a glass of soda. Soon to be enjoying wines and ciders. So we've been looking forward to hosting all these customers, but then only haven't been able to do that for maybe 5 or 6 months, and then having the pandemic come along, we had to really adapt. So 60% of our sales were to restaurants, selling kegs of beer to Derick's Bar and Grill, or to Johnny Farina, or to to Darcy McGee's. So we really had to try and adapt quickly. So step one of adapting was just throwing the whole world online. So taking all the beer out of kegs, putting into cans, hoping that the home consumer business would work for us. So instead of doing a $400 to $500 delivery to a restaurant, we're surviving on doing $40 to $50 deliveries to home consumers, and
Right.
it's definitely stabilized. Our business is down because it was so heavy on the restaurant side of things, but we're definitely stable. So one of the interesting things that happened when the restaurant business, when customers were no longer allowed to dine in, was the government said, you know what, you're allowed to buy alcohol and sit and enjoy it in a restaurant. Let's do a temporary thing to see that you can have alcohol to go. So say you want to go in to your local restaurant and buy a club sandwich. Now you can buy a club sandwich and a couple cans of beer, for takeout. So it's like, okay, this is interesting. And, they tried that temporarily in 2020 and they realized, hey, the world didn't blow up. Nobody got hurt. Let's just make this a permanent
Yeah.
rule. So what we did is we approached the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario and said, look, we'd love to do this as well. So we switched our licensing. So we become a restaurant in the front and a brewery in the back. So now we can sell alcohol that's not just ours to go. So what we've done is said, hey, instead of just warming up to this, let's just go for it. So we've got 40 different beers and 20 different wines right now, and some spirits and some ciders. So it's become a little mini liquor store in front of the brewery, which people
Right.
coming in say, hey, I'm buying some Kichesippi stuff, and I can buy some other great Ontario beers and Ontario wines and Ontario ciders that I can't get in the LCBO. So we're just trying to complement the great selection at the LCBO with things that you can't find in the LCBO, which helps us bring more people to our building. So you're coming in, you're buying some Kichesippi stuff, you're picking up some food truck food, and some great beers and wines from other wonderful suppliers around the province.
It's just a fantastic idea, and I visited the old location where it was a
Yeah.
dead end street and an industrial
Oh yeah.
park, and it's you're not going to get walk up traffic there, sort of thing, or even drive by traffic, right? And I'm sure that was one of the challenges that you had. So this puts you in a position where you're going to get some of that drive by traffic. And be, oh, look at there's Kichesippi Beer. We should go in and check that out. It's a
Yeah,
great
there's days that we
location.
get more. Yeah, there's days we get more bicycles than we do cars. We're right beside the Transcanada Trail. If you fall off the trail, you land on our patio. So there's bikes. There's a bus stop out front. There's lots of parking. So it's really great. It's a really great active lifestyle community. A really great community hub. Sodas for the kids. Beer and wine for mom and dad, and it's been a fantastic experience so far.
Yeah, I know the area quite well. We actually Brady's Pool and Spa just down the
Yeah,
street. I
yeah,
know
for
the
sure.
owner
Make a
there,
walk there for
Brady,
sure.
and yeah, he's another great local business. Paul, I can't thank you enough for sharing time with us today. Really appreciate it. And again, this new location, just your description of the fabulous patio, indoor and outdoor seating, and it sounds like a wonderful experience. I cannot wait and we will get through this. And I can't wait for my family and I to come for a visit, because I remember my wife and I were just talking about the great tour that we did at your old location. We brought our kids, and
That's
they
right.
were just fascinated. So looking forward to coming visiting you. Thanks so much again, and take care of yourself, and we'll catch up some other time.
Thank you so much, Derick. I look forward to seeing you soon in person.
Yeah, same here. Thanks so much. Thank you very much for watching. You've been watching another episode of Let's Chat with Derick.